I arbitrarily choose themes for the month every year, usually in the fall of the previous year. And so last fall, I chose the theme for January to be vision. Vision. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between visualization and visioning. Because there are fundamental differences between visualization and visioning. And at least that's the way I understand it. You get to decide how you define those words. So let's be really clear. I'm not here to dictate any of that to you. But I want to talk about the difference in my understanding between visualization and visioning. Both have value. Let's first acknowledge that. Both have value in a spiritual practice in our lives. Because visualization is the activity, I think, of what Linda Martella-Whitsett offered in that book, of imagination. We are utilizing our imagination and visualizing the infinite possibility of what our lives can be, what our interactions and relationships can be, what our relationship to the entire world or the entire universe can be. That is an active use of imagination, and I always align that with the idea of visualization. And so when you create, they always call it a visioning board, but I call them a visualization board, where you go and you cut out all the things out of magazines and nice words, and you post them on a poster board. It's an activity that a lot of people do at the beginning of the year. And you say, this is going to be my vision for this year. And I say, yes. I'm visualizing an infinite possibility for what will unfold in my life. And I'm grounding that in the here and now through the use of my imagination. So how does that differ from visioning? Because for me, they are different. So visioning for me is rooted in an active use of intuition. That when I am engaged in a visioning practice, I'm allowing myself to intuit something beyond just the imagination. I'm opening myself up as a channel of divinity itself in an active, flowing way. So we're not going to get into the practice of visioning today, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I do differentiate these ideas. Visioning is not prediction. I want to be really clear too, like it's not a prediction practice. It is an activation of the creative principle within each and every one of us. Visioning often begins in stillness. And it is activated through a divine impulse that flows forth from that practice of stillness. And that divine impulse is what leads us into the activity of our lives. And this is firmly rooted in the third principle we teach. Now, I have endeavored to these first 5 weeks of the year to talk about each of the principles in each of my Sunday messages. So for the first week, I talked specifically about the principle of God is all there is. That is the first principle we teach. God is all there is. There is God and absolutely nothing else. Absolutely nothing else exists. And what makes that important for me is what really is articulated in principle 2, because if God is all there is, that must be who we are. The wholeness of our beingness is divine. It is God essence. It is the outflow of love itself, and we are that love. So God is all there is. It is who and what we are. And then the third principle is related to the manner of its use in our lives. So when we say God is all there is, God is not a thing out there, right? Because if it was out there, we would be separate from it. We would not be part of all that is. It would be something else. God is the creative principle. We use a lot of language to describe God. One of my favorites is the word love. Love, the impulse of creativity flowing forth into expression. But that third principle is this: I create my reality through thought and belief, and activate that thought and belief through feeling tone. I always add that in. I create my reality through thought and belief, and activate that reality through my feeling tone. That feeling tone is one of conviction. It's really, when we talk about faith, we're talking about the nature of conviction around our thoughts and beliefs. What do we firmly believe so without a doubt to such a degree that we cannot be shaken from it, because that is what is creating in our lives. I create reality through thought and belief, and the manner in which each and every one of us is creating our reality through thought and belief is the exact same way that the infinite is creating reality through consciousness as consciousness. And so then it makes me think about the song. And I'm going to reference a lot of lyrics today. I know there's a lot of lyrics in that song, and so I'm going to tell you some of the lyrics that really resonate with me. In the song is this lyric: with our eyes wide shut, in the still of the night, we sit and hold the vision. With our eyes wide shut, in the still of the night, we sit and hold the vision. Now, it doesn't have to be in the middle of the night. We can vision anytime. But I want to ask you, and this is a rhetorical question, what is the vision you have for this world? Just consider that for a moment. What is the vision you have for this world? And we can narrow that down to this. What is the vision you have for your participation in this world? Who are you choosing to be in this world? What is your vision? Tomorrow, we celebrate the legacy of someone who had quite a vision, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And there's a challenge for me sometimes that comes up when I reference Dr. King. And that is that in hindsight, in retrospect, half a century removed, more than a half a century removed now, we laud him, and rightfully so. But when he was expressing his vision in his time, he was vilified. And I don't think we should ever forget that that was the experience he was having. Because I think I see a lot of that happening right now. And who will be the next Dr. King, who we will in 50, 70 years from now laud as the person who had the vision for something that we are seeking to feel and be and express? Dr. King was political. And we never want to talk about politics in the church, right? We never want to talk about politics. He was political. He was not partisan. He was teaching love and light and beauty from his perspective. So he was political in his articulation of those things, but he was not partisan, just like Jesus. Jesus was political. Jesus was not partisan. Let us all step forth from that point of view, that we can activate our lives from that political point of view, but we don't have to be partisan within that. We don't have to talk about the other. We can say, let us collectively work together to create something that is loving and kind and generous. Part of the legacy of Dr. King was articulated in this phrase, beloved community. And I feel very motivated by this idea of beloved community. He endeavored to live and embody beloved community in everything he put forth. He offered that beloved community is not a utopian fantasy. Beloved community also is not conflict-free. And it is achievable through a critical mass committed to nonviolence. I said a few weeks ago that violence is never the answer. So this seems to be a theme in my vision for this world that I'm really sitting with this month. Beloved community is achievable through a critical mass committed to nonviolence. Now, I want to talk about critical mass for a moment. We live in an infinite consciousness. That consciousness is creative. We are all part of that infinite consciousness. Now, we also, as a collective, let's just talk about the collective within this room and anyone who is watching online. As a collective, we are creating a consensus within the infinite. I'm going to use a big old jargony word here for it, 2 words. I call that subjective consensus. And so what we are creating collectively is what is coming into expression in our lives. Okay? You with me so far? I know that's like a big idea, right? It's a big idea. There's other words we used to use to refer to the same idea, but the words get confused. So I have coined the term subjective consensus to mean just that. The old terms used to be race consciousness. See, what does that bring up in your mind? It brings up this idea of separation for me. So we're saying it's a subjective consensus, the consensus that we all share and hold for love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. We have created a subjective consensus. We have created a critical mass in our lives. And I like to believe that that critical mass is playing itself out in the individualized expression of each and every one of our lives because we have committed ourselves to that idea. So what if we were to propose to everyone in our sphere of influence, and we are all influential, every single one of us is influential. What if we were to propose to our sphere of influence nonviolence as a frame of mind that we must adhere to? Rooted in love only. Forgive everything. That's a hard one for a lot of people. I don't talk about it probably enough from up here, which then makes me think after these 5 weeks what the next 3 weeks might be. Love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. The lyric in the song continues, when the fears run wild, we don't run and hide. We see a world with no division. I'm having trouble with this one, y'all. It's really easy to see a world of division. But your world, your experience of the world is the outflow of the choices you make in terms of how you are visioning this world. And so while I can perceive a divided world in the relative, my job becomes, from the absolute point of view, the infinite point of view, to let go of any notions of division. That's my work. And I'm going to encourage that this become the work of each and every one of us, because as long as we continue to believe in the relative facts of division, we will continue to live within the consciousness of division, and we will continue to create the experience of division. Our work is to let go of the notions of division to understand the truth of our being. When we say, remember who you are, it is not a separating idea. Because if I remember who I am, then I must understand that about every single person I encounter, that you are no more or no less than divine. We are each and every one of us the expression of an infinite divine power and presence. And that vision, ooh, it requires courage. Are you willing to be courageous today? Avoidance of the relative will keep the relative in place. And so I ask you this, with that in mind, what is yours to do? Because I ask myself this all the time. What is mine to do? And it is not to ignore the relative facts. It is to be able to, with a discerning, wise consciousness, be able to look upon the relative facts and say, I see that this is the experience, but I know something greater. I know that I alone, one alone in consciousness with the infinite, constitutes a complete majority. I can be the point of view of creating a critical mass that transforms this entire experience of life. Now, I want to acknowledge one thing about the beloved community, because it says conflict is not it is not conflict-free, the beloved community. While conflict may be inevitable in our experience, it's an aspect of our presence here on this plane of action. Violence is optional. So opt for nonviolence. Nonviolence is true strength. Nonviolence is true strength. Nonviolence is grounded in spiritual maturity. I think about, I had to learn this. When I was in grade 4, I had a lot of aggression. It's so funny, we were talking about grade 4 today before the celebration. I had a lot of aggression when I was in grade 4, and I think it was because it's about the time that I was trying to determine my identity as an expression in this world. What are my relationships to others? And I got a lot of angst built up at grade 4, like age 10. And there were people that I would make enemies among my schoolmates. It's part of what happens, right? And so while it may be surprising to you now, I was a little bit of a bully to some of my schoolmates. And I look back on that now, I'm like, what was I thinking? Hindsight is 20/20. But that bullying frame of mind, because I didn't know who I was, translated itself into some violent action. Now, I'm not going to, it wasn't like, I won't say that I hadn't harmed anyone. There's someone that I can think of very specifically that I brought physical harm to. And it may be because I had been the recipient of physical harm as well, just a year or two earlier. We don't need to get into that. I got beat up when I was in grade 2. I don't know if you know that. My dad's sitting in the back. Just by some bullies in my neighborhood. And so that relative experience informed my thought process about what I thought life should be. And I thought, well, if that's what they're doing to make themselves feel strong and proud, well, then I guess that's how you feel strong and proud. So I became a bully. Never the answer. I'm grateful that I learned that lesson pretty quickly. Really, the learning around that, and I can articulate it in this manner now, is that it's all choice. It was all choice. How I responded to having been bullied was a choice. And my decision to respond by being a bully, perhaps not the most constructive choice. Freedom. Our freedom is expressed through the choices we make, and we are infinitely free because we have infinite access to divine ideas that show up as the choices of our lives. Beloved community is relational. How are we choosing to relate? Beloved community, while it is an idea, let us take it out of the realm of the ideological and allow it to become a tangible reality in our lives. It is seeing with, as the song says, it is seeing with one love, one heart, one drum beating to a song that is singing us home. That's how I choose to understand the nature of beloved community. What it asks of us is unconditional love. It asks of us absolute unconditional love. There's a word that is referenced in the work of Dr. King that means unconditional love. Selfless, unconditional, divine, wide open love. And that word is agape. It's a Greek word. I invite us all into the consciousness of agape. And there is a relationship between the word agape, like when you, right, your mouth wide open, and agape, because it is wide open. It is a vulnerable thing to express, agape, true agape. Dr. King spoke of it in this manner. He said, it is understanding goodwill for all, not some, understanding goodwill for all. Agape is love without agenda. It is prioritizing relationship, not the consciousness of dominion. We're experiencing the consciousness of dominion to such a deep degree, and that will keep us separated. We will never experience beloved community as long as we remain in the consciousness of division. Dr. King, of course, said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so if you see injustice anywhere, know that that is a threat to justice, your own experience of justice everywhere. Justice is not divisible. It's not, oh, well, that's happening over there, so it has no effect on me. No, justice is not divisible. It cannot be expressed in parts. Justice is the social expression of agape. Do not separate or dominate, appreciate and celebrate, the song offers. Do not separate or dominate, appreciate and celebrate. It's one of the things I love about Sundays. We celebrate each other. We celebrate the magnificence of every single person we encounter. We honor our differences. We honor the things that make us unique. Do not separate or dominate, appreciate and celebrate. I appreciate you. I am so deeply grateful for this community. Beloved community replaces hierarchy. It replaces hierarchy with mutuality. To truly live within the consciousness of beloved community, we are inviting that divine identity that is the infinite equalizer that says, I know who I am, and I accept and understand that about every single one of you. You know, at the beginning of the celebration today, I said, let's look around and just look at the faces of God. Because every single person we encounter is an expression of divine presence. You are the face of God. We are the guardians of this place, the song offers. How will we choose to guard the infinite agape at hand that we claim to be and know? Community is something we tend, not something we consume. We tend and we nurture community. It's not something that we just plop ourselves into as a consuming idea, as a consumer. Each life is an expression of the whole. What we embody becomes what spreads. Like I talk about the peace candle. Our embodiment of that infinite idea of peace at the core of our experience and expression, if we allow that to inform every aspect of our being, then we become the sacred seeds of the sound of Om. We are the seeds that are bursting forth into expression. What are we embodying? What are we embodying? It comes down to two options, and only two options. Do you have your little wooden coin, Beryl?
No, I gave it away to someone.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing it. Beryl has a wooden coin, and on one side it says love, and on the other side it says fear. Those are the only two options. So what are you choosing to embody today, love or fear? Again, it's easy to look at the relative world and embody a consciousness of fear. But if you can look at the relative world and embody a consciousness of love and then pour that love, pour that consciousness of peace onto the relative facts, then those facts will not maintain themselves in our experience. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody, Charles Fillmore offered. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. This is the vision that I hold. It is a choice to vision the world from the point of view of love only. And seeing from this point of view is the first step. So let us enact that beloved community. One of the ways that we're encouraging that today, you may have noticed the peace quilt is not on the wall. When we introduced the peace quilt and honored the peace quilt, I said, we're going to take that peace quilt off of the wall and we're going to invite everyone to infuse their own prayers for peace into that quilt. It is in the foyer, it is in the narthex, it is in the lobby, whatever you want to call that space out there. And there are markers out there. And I am encouraging members of this community to go out and write your messages of peace and know that you are infusing that energy into that physical, tangible thing. And that energy will allow us to, every time we walk into this space, feel the energy of peace and love and light. So please do participate in that. Activate that impulse of peace. Activate that impulse of agape in your life. Consciousness is the call. And you know what? There is no savior coming. Ooh, There is no Savior, by the way. In case you wondered what we stood for within this spiritual community, there is no Savior coming. We are the sacred saviors of humanity, each and every one of us. And if you want to utilize the language of traditional Christianity, we are the second coming of the Christ consciousness that is here to bless this entire world. Who will you choose to be today? Beloved community is not perfected, it is practiced. Moment by moment, by moment, by moment, by moment. The amateur in any endeavor practices until they get it right. The master practices until they cannot get it wrong. Let us be masters of the spiritual practice of creating beloved community. Let us master that. Practice visioning beloved community, because vision becomes reality when love is chosen again and again. Peace and blessings. You are magnificent. If you are new to our community, one of the things that I do offer every week is a life practice which we can adopt. It is usually related to the message of the day, and it is a practical way to do something in alignment with the message that I've offered today. And so this is the life practice I offer today. Intentionally learn the name and one true thing about someone in your community that you do not yet know. That can be here. That can be in your greater community. Learn the name and one true thing about someone in your community that you do not yet know. Now, there's a practice within this. Because as you learn something about someone else, it may be that your inclination is to go into judgment. Let go of the judgment. Do not seek to fix, correct, or advise. Just be the embodiment of presence and goodwill to whatever it is that you are hearing in that new interaction. That's the life practice for this week.
Need a moment of peace or inspiration? Call the Unity of Tucson prayer line for a comforting, uplifting prayer, available 24/7. Each month, we offer a new affirmative prayer to support you on your prayer journey. Call today and let the power of prayer uplift your spirit.